I've been married for 17 years, and we don't have any children together. My wife, having been divorced once before, brought two daughters into our marriage, and I've helped raise them. They're now 28 and 23. Honestly, I thought we had a pretty solid relationship with only minor issues here and there. We always prided ourselves on having open communication, whether it was about work, sex, or just our feelings. Many nights we'd sit on the couch discussing life and philosophy. I believed we had a deep connection and a fulfilling sex life. We both stay in shape and live healthily. I work in the medical field and have been putting in a lot of overtime lately. Meanwhile, she works in legal consultancy and has been working from home for the past 5 months. This has created some distance, but we still enjoy our days off together. Last night, I changed the filter on our Dyson fan. I needed to update the app, so I asked to use her phone since mine was charging by the front door. I noticed she had a pattern unlock on her phone, which was new and made me a bit curious. While searching for the app, a Snapchat notification popped up. My stomach dropped when I saw it. "I'll bring the special toy." I was in shock. I couldn't process what I was seeing. She asked what was wrong when she saw me staring blankly at the fan. My wife has these quarterly business trips that take her out of town for 5 days, and I knew this was about her upcoming trip on Monday. I've been a silent Reddit reader for years and have read countless stories like this, never imagining it would happen to me. I managed to say I was looking for information about the IP and router, which is how the fan communicates through the app. My wife had logged into Facebook on my Chromebook yesterday. I took a week off work, explaining my situation to my understanding supervisor. I've spent all night reading her chats. She left for the office, and I made sure her Google location history and Find My Phone were active. Now, I'm suspicious of her every move. She doesn't know I saw the message. I logged into Verizon's messaging system under her name and discovered thousands of texts dating back to last February. Memes, flirty pics, even X-rated ones. She stopped using Verizon's messaging app 3 months ago, probably switching to Snapchat for discretion. I'm not on social media, so I'm clueless about these things. I found out that you can't log into Snapchat through Facebook, but all it takes is an email and password. She used the Chromebook for that too, even 3 nights ago while lying next to me in bed, messaging him as she rubbed my back. The guy she's cheating with is a younger coworker, married with 3 young children. I've met him twice, even shook his hand. I'm completely lost, wandering around the house I built for her. My emotions are a mix of numbness and searing rage. When I logged into Snapchat, I saw everything. I called my best friend, who has been divorced 3 times, and he recommended a fierce lawyer. I plan on recording and saving everything. There are even pictures of them together. I'm sure there's video too. I wish this were just a nightmare. She said awful things about me, shared my insecurities, and told him she loves him. It seems like a purely sexual affair, which almost makes it worse because she's throwing away our life for this. She knows cheating is an absolute deal breaker for me. Normally, I'd take her to the airport with a long goodbye. Now I can't even think straight. My friend suggested printing everything out and trying to recover Snapchat messages, but I need her phone for that. Today I'm seeing the lawyer and paying a lot to get in quickly. I'm also considering following her to the hotel to catch her in the act. I've put myself as a contact person for her hotel booking, so I can get a room key without her knowing. My plan is to log into her messaging apps when I arrive, get a room key, and leave the evidence and my wedding ring in her room. I'll sit at the bar and watch my phone blow up. I intend to call the guy and tell him to bring my wife to the lobby, then inform him that I've sent a similar package to his wife. His wife accepted my friend request, and I'm debating sending everything to her now. I'm seething with rage and just want to hurt my wife emotionally. I feel utterly emasculated and can't entertain any apology. Cheating is unforgivable. It takes so many steps to cheat, and she didn't stop any of them. Should I confront her tonight or catch her in the act? I don't think I'll update again. I'm seriously considering avoiding social media and only being with a partner who shares that outlook in the future. I found the special toy she mentioned. We have a chest full of adult toys, but this one was already in her carry-on. It's a remote control vibrator that can be controlled by an app. It looks expensive. I meet with the lawyer in 90 minutes. I had my meeting with the lawyer today. She was unexpectedly kind and direct, emphasizing that her job was to safeguard my future, while mine was to be completely honest and not complicate things. After that, I went to Kinko's to print out the entire file, which set me back $534 for color prints since I wanted the pictures to be clear. Big thanks to Chris at Kinko's for handling it professionally when the nudes started coming out. He asked what it was about, and when I explained, he was shocked, but offered his sympathy and shook my hand. Afterward, I went home and crashed for about 3 hours. My soon-to-be ex-wife, STBXW, came home around 7:30 p.m., as usual. The lawyer strongly advised against any dramatic hotel bar confrontation, pointing out it would make me look irrational. So, sorry for the lack of high drama, but she's right. There are 2 ways to handle divorce: contested or uncontested. I need to inform my wife that I've retained a lawyer, and she'll either contest the divorce or we'll proceed through mediation. When she got home, I asked if there was anything she wanted to talk about. She mentioned the election, then asked why I seemed upset. I felt like crying, but my tears were all spent. I asked her why she had a remote control vibrator in her luggage. Her reaction was more telling than any words. She looked panicked and pale, started breathing faster, and began sweating. I asked who had the code and the app to control it. She started crying, claiming she could explain. I pulled out my 3 file folders of their text exchanges and asked if the affair partner's AP's wife had the code. She pleaded for a chance to explain. I gave her 5 minutes, but she couldn't. I told her what my lawyer advised. She needed to leave. She shouted it was her house too. I calmly responded that I would expose her affair to everyone unless she left. Even her daughters would know. Or she could leave now and find temporary living arrangements since she'd be at her work conference for a week. She was speechless. I showed her the AP's wife on Facebook and said, "Do you want to tell her or should I?" She cried and begged, saying she loved me and it wasn't supposed to go this far. My favorite was, "You can't do this." I sent the AP's wife a message with the file of their escapades, prefaced with apologies and a brief explanation. I haven't heard back from her yet. I started reading random excerpts from the text out loud to my wife. "I just wish we could spend the day attached to each other. Just you inside of me. You feel so much more intense than any other woman I've ever been with." She kept sobbing, asking to talk about us, saying our marriage could survive her mistake. I told her I'd never forgive her. Her word meant nothing, and she threw away our 17 years together. I'm still considering informing HR and telling everyone about her decision to end our marriage by cheating. Thank you to everyone who reached out. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to all the PMs and comments. I have a therapy appointment on Tuesday. I feel a mix of elation, shaking, and deep sadness. Part of me wishes I could just disappear. The house is quiet except for her crying. I told her not to come back after her trip. I'm sending friend requests and sharing my story with everyone I can. I'll wait until morning to call the girls. I raised them from when they were 11 and 6. They're now 28 and 23. I'm not sure what to say or how to handle this with them. I want to provide more context about our situation to explain why I feel the way I do. I went to college in Las Vegas in the mid-90s and graduated in 1999. During those years, I had a lot of fun and got around quite a bit. It was during this time that I decided I never wanted to marry or have children, believing marriage was an outdated concept that took away personal agency. After graduating with a degree in nursing, I quickly excelled in cardiovascular intensive care. In 2001, I moved back to Texas to pursue my master's degree to become an advanced practice RN/nurse practitioner, specializing in CV surgery. While working on this, I also decided to aim for medical school, adjusting my coursework accordingly. It was then that I met my STBXW. She was a short, curvy redhead with a fiery personality. We met during an intense situation at work, and our attraction and relationship developed rapidly. Within 3 months, we were saying, "I love you." She was a mother of 2, which clashed with my desire to be child-free. She had been divorced for about 2 years and was getting out of an on-again, off-again relationship when we met. We dated for about 2 years before she slowly introduced me to her daughters, who were 11 and 6 at the time. One night, she sat me down for a heartfelt and pragmatic talk about our future. She needed to know if we were going to get married or if we should move on. I was still anti-marriage, and she respected that, but she wanted me to think about our future together. We were living together, had emergency contact information for each other, and joked that all we needed was joint insurance. We agreed to continue for a bit longer, but I knew I had to make a decision. 2 weeks later, I received an acceptance letter to a medical school about 2 hours away. I was ecstatic but also crushed. At 26, I was about to achieve a huge life goal, but I realized I would hardly see her or the girls. The prospect of 7 years of medical school, residency, and fellowship, along with the financial strain and time away from them, led me to decline the offer. Instead, I switched back to a master's in nursing administration. We got married in July 2003 in an intimate ceremony with close family and friends. While my parents adored the girls, they were always standoffish with my STBXW. On Monday, when I told my parents about the situation and the possibility of the girls being less involved in their lives, they admitted they always felt my STBXW was damaged goods and that she forced me to compromise. That hit hard, and to some extent, they were right. After graduating, I chose not to become a manager or director, preferring hands-on patient care. I got certified in ECMO and earned a perfusionist credential, which has been my career for the past 11 years. It's been both challenging and rewarding. About 5 years ago, my STBXW decided she wanted a 9-to-5 job that didn't involve patient care. She found a position through a friend at a multi-state legal consultancy that specializes in medical legal suits. She abstracts data from patient charts and presents it as needed. On Saturday morning, D-Day +2, I only slept a few hours and had dark, disturbing thoughts about my future and life. Thoughts of death and violence filled my mind. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when she walked in, bleary-eyed, and asked if I would make her some. I threw my food in the trash in front of her. I then played music from my youth at an uncomfortable volume to avoid talking to her. I started pain shopping, reading the printouts of their messages in chronological order. By the afternoon, I had moved from punk rock to breakup songs by Chris Isaak and Ray LaMontagne. She approached me again, this time almost indignant, asking what notifying the AP's wife accomplished. I stared at her, dumbfounded, and told her that at least the AP's wife would now have the chance to make an informed decision about her future, unlike me, who had compromised and sacrificed for someone who betrayed me. Apparently, my message to the AP's wife had caused trouble for him. My wife sat on the couch sobbing. I told her I was cried out and numb, needing to focus on what needed to be done. She timidly asked what else I had to do. I told her I intended to ruin her life and make her feel the pain I felt. If she had any respect or love for me, she would show me everything on her phone. She refused, saying it didn't matter and that I would only hold it against her. I wanted to know everything as a completionist, but she refused and went to the guest bedroom. I found her HR and new hire paperwork from her company. They have a corporate compliance line, so I called and left a detailed message. I reported that she and the AP had discussed client information, including protected health information, using unsecured, non-approved messaging systems. I also informed them that she was his acting supervisor on 2 projects during the time of the sexually inappropriate messages, and that they had used their subsidized phones to transmit pornographic materials. That was a significant violation. My whole life I've seen myself as a peaceful and rational person. This experience has shattered that part of me, and I'm worried about the anger that surfaced. I know that to eventually get over this, I'll need to accept her apology and forgive her, but I don't know if I'm capable of that, which is troubling. That evening, I continued to notify family and friends about what had happened. I called a physician friend for a checkup and an STD test. He had questions, and I answered them. My eyes grew heavy around 8 p.m. Sunday D-Day +3. I decided to drive to see the girls, who are about 3 hours away. The youngest is still in college for another semester, maybe longer, thanks to the disruptions of 2020. I've had strong feelings about them since this began. I've always had a respectful, friendly relationship with them, but not much of a fatherly one. The oldest especially always gave off a "you're not my dad" vibe. The youngest, not as much, but it became more noticeable when they were together. I left early Sunday around 5 a.m. and arrived at their condo. Their father pays for it just after 8:45 a.m. I brought kolaches and good coffee for them. They were immediately worried about their mother before I even said anything. I told them straight out about the situation and that their mother would likely be moving in the next 3 to 6 months. It was best to do and say this in person. I told them everything. They were disappointed in her. I also told them that I wasn't there to make them take sides. They are adults in a unique situation within our relationship, and if they chose not to interact with me anymore, that would be okay. I would be somewhat let down but also relieved. However, I emphasized that our relationship, or lack thereof, should not affect their relationship with their grandparents, my parents. They agreed they would stay in touch with my parents. I left around 11 a.m. and headed home. I stopped at my best friend's house and cried a bit. I had essentially helped raise them as best I could. Their father was mostly absentee during their childhood and started another family 6 hours away. My best friend decided I had drunk enough over the past 72 hours and needed sleep. I crashed at his place that night. I noticed STBXW had been blowing up my phone after I left the girl's place. I was too tired and in too dark a place to care. Monday, D-Day +4. I arrived home around 8 a.m. and noticed her Porsche was still there. I thought maybe she had Ubered to the airport, but no, she hadn't. She was up and had made breakfast, asking me to sit down and eat with her. I did. She asked how it tasted. I told her it tasted like static. I said I've had a hard time tasting or feeling anything other than bitterness and anger for the past 5 days. She had called in sick at work and didn't leave for her quarterly meeting. She tried to start talking about how worried she was for me and how much she loved me. She had gotten a call from her oldest daughter yesterday around noon, and they were deeply disturbed by her behavior. I laughed, realizing it was a manic kind of laugh that took me aback. I said, "Oh, you love me so much you had an affair for a year and a half behind my back. You love me so much you slept with another married man. You love me so much you threw away nearly half my life for—" What? She had never given me a reason for her actions, and that made it worse. I went to the liquor cabinet and pulled out the bottle. The bottle was an 18-year Glenfiddich my grandfather bought for us when we got married. It was our tradition to have a small sip on our anniversary night and remember that things get better with time and patience. I chugged the remainder, about a third of the bottle. I apologized for not offering her any, saying she didn't deserve it. I went to the bedroom and started taking down all the pictures of us or her from the walls and placed them on the kitchen table. She had left. My attorney's paralegal called to notify me that the petition for divorce was ready. I needed to sign off before it could be filed, and STBXW would be served within 10 business days. I quickly read it, while very buzzed on premium scotch, e-signed, and pressed send. I also received a message from the AP's wife. She reluctantly thanked me for the horrible but good revelation. She declined to speak with me, but wanted to let me know she found texts and videos with other women besides my STBXW. She kicked him out and was going to see an attorney soon. They live in California, so he's in big trouble. I listened to music and had a few more drinks. I fell asleep around 4 p.m. I heard her come home around 10 p.m. She saw the pile of pictures and things that had once meant something to us. She started sobbing and asking me to talk to her. I only asked one question: why? She kept saying she didn't know. I called her vile things and said she made so many decisions to get to just the first text. It was she who started it. I was pretty loose with my tongue due to being drunk. I laughed at her, started taking off my clothes, and said she threw away this, pointing to my body. I'm 64 inches and weigh 200 pounds. Up until last week, I jogged and lifted weights 4 times a week for some pot-bellied needle-dick guy who wasn't going to do anything for her. I went to my room and took a shower. When I got out, she was in the bed naked. She had lit some candles and begged me to have sex with her. I turned on my camera and told her to repeat what she said, thanks to everyone who suggested this, just in case. Despite everything, my body didn't agree with my mind, so I did it. I was not kind. I put her in uncomfortable positions and pounded her. I demanded anal and wanted to hear her beg for it. I recorded it all. I felt so many mixed emotions afterward. I love her, yet I'm indifferent to her. I hate her, yet I think nothing of her. I want her, but it hurts to think of us anymore. We fell asleep together. I woke up hungover and had a hard time looking at myself in the mirror. Tuesday D-Day +5. My therapy session lasted 2.5 hours. Unbeknownst to me, she had followed me there and wanted to know what I was doing. I told her I was getting therapy for the emotional trauma I experienced after realizing I had thrown away most of my life on someone who couldn't even explain why she cheated on me. I was loud and teary-eyed. My soon-to-be therapist witnessed most of the exchange. I called her horrible names and told her I wished her dead. Needless to say, my session was intense. The therapist prescribed some sedatives and scheduled a shorter appointment for Thursday. We discussed my anger and betrayal, my emasculation, and my fear of the future. I explained that I was terrified of the unknown. Last week, I felt like a complete man with a vision, goals, and a partner to deal with any issues. Now I felt like a ship without a rudder or mast, with no sense of direction or power to move forward. The therapist started explaining the why I wanted to know. He said it wasn't a single question, but a series of questions to uncover the motivation behind her actions. He suggested I calmly ask my STBXW what within herself gave her permission to do this to me. Several follow-up questions would follow, but this one stuck out the most. I told him about the sex, and he recommended setting explicit ground rules for our physical relationship. He ultimately advised against continuing it, as it would confuse and exacerbate things unless reconciliation was my goal. I cried and raged and left the session exhausted. STBXW was still outside waiting for me. I walked past her without responding to her questions and pleading. I got a call from the physician's office to get tested and went to that appointment. I told the doctor a brief version of the story. He recommended stopping drinking and taking the sedatives cautiously. I went home and continued boxing up my things. I decided to move out. I called work and requested a face-to-face meeting. The thought of working or concentrating on life and death issues was impossible in my current state of mind. I drove to the administrative building at the hospital, met with the team, and formally gave my 6 weeks resignation. My job is highly specialized, so 6 weeks is the minimum courtesy. I explained that my STBXW's actions had created a stressful home life, and I would be a detriment to patients, the team, and myself if I continued to stay in the area. I decided to move far away. After picking up some groceries, I went home. It had been about a week since I had more than a mouthful of food, subsisting on liquor. I took my therapist and physician friend's advice and decided to make some food and stop drinking. She was home, sitting in the darkened living room, drinking wine. She had organized the pictures and was looking through them. She had put on makeup and was wearing a date-night dress, but her makeup was smeared from crying. She got up and tried to embrace me. I gently pushed her away and made a show of pulling out my phone and hitting record. She started crying again. She told me the AP's wife had called her and revealed he had been with other women as well. She said she felt like a fool and that every derogatory name I had called her was right. She begged me to consider us. I asked why I should bother, reminding her that she didn't when she betrayed me. I told her I was sorry that her lies had caught up with her, but I felt she was more sorry about getting caught than remorseful for what she did to me. I told her she seemed more upset about having to start over than losing any love she had for me. I said she abandoned her love for me or us 2 years ago when she decided to cheat. I informed her of my call to the corporate compliance line and the specific rules she had broken. I didn't raise my voice or act angry. Although I was shaking, it felt like everything was leaving me in a rush. I felt elated and so low at the same time, empty when I was done. I put away the groceries and made a small sandwich, then went to bed. She was there again. I pulled out my phone and told her, with the recorder going, what my therapist had said about sex. In 17 years, I couldn't recall a time when I'd refused or declined sex from her. I asked her to leave and sleep in the guest bedroom. She refused, so I said I would instead. Wednesday, D-Day +6. I woke up alone, only to find her curled up next to me. I quietly got up, did some light exercise, and began working on my resume. I'm hoping to move to Seattle by the end of the year. As much as I love my parents and will miss being close to them, I can't stay in this city. The thought of running into her after all of this is unbearable. I need to escape this place and all its reminders of what I've lost and the compromises I've made. The day was dreary and uneventful, with rain on and off. I had an early dinner with my best friend and gave him an update. We decided to forgo drinking. My attorney assured me that moving away won't affect the division of assets. I'll use my PTO until the end of October, and then use my share of our savings to relocate and start over. I feel an emptiness that's hard to shake, like I'm being pulled into a void. I've never contemplated ending my own life, but the past few days have brought fleeting thoughts of what it might be like not to be here. I plan to discuss these thoughts with my therapist tomorrow. STBXW has been frequenting the library, diving into relationship books. Meanwhile, I've been reading Chump Lady, which has been insightful. I overheard part of her call with work and know she has a meeting tomorrow despite her claims of being sick. She's been spending nights in bed as usual. I feel conflicted. I'm yearning to feel something, but all I can muster is hate and resentment. The only kind of sex I desire now is sadistic. Monday's encounter felt like a rush, but it left me with a crushing aftermath and guilt. I'm second-guessing myself about not wanting her back. I know she's made a terrible mistake, but can I ever truly forgive or forget? I'm a tangled mess of emotions. I told her the ground rules about sex, with my phone recording. I explained that it did not indicate reconciliation or a covert signal that I wanted that. I told her this was probably hysterical bonding and not healthy. I told her I wouldn't be gentle or care about her feelings or needs during it. She was teary-eyed and nodded, understanding. She quietly said that she deserved it. She then rolled over and got on all fours. Thursday, D-Day +7. I woke up to find her still spooning me. I lay there for a while, trying to process my feelings. I asked her about her meeting, and she mentioned it was with HR, and likely would be unpleasant. I agreed. She then asked what she could do to make things right. I told her it was too late. There was nothing she could do. She offered an open marriage arrangement, where I could see other people, but she wouldn't pursue anyone. I laughed and said, "No, I don't trust you." She agreed that was fair. I had trouble looking at her. It was easier to talk with my back turned. Seeing her face makes me angry. I asked her what I did to make her so unhappy that she felt the need to cheat. She said I was beyond great, but I didn't see how that mattered now. She said the affair was an adventure for her, a thrill she chased without considering the consequences. She admitted it was a relief, and also deeply painful when I confronted her. I made breakfast and went to see my therapist. We discussed my job plans and the responses I've received from applications. I shared everything about STBXW and the sexual encounters. We also talked about my suicidal thoughts. He wasn't judgmental. He wanted me to understand and work through my feelings. After the session, I felt an odd calmness, like everything was just unfolding as it should. When I got home, STBXW was in the living room, looking dejected. She told me she'd been fired for breaching client information protocols. I responded with a flat, "That's unfortunate." I exercised and prepared dinner, which she joined. We barely spoke. Later, she informed me that AP had also been fired. I said, "Good." She revealed that she hadn't been in contact with him for 5 days. I asked why not. They were both free now. She could be with her soulmate if she wished. She said I was the only one she wanted. I replied, "No, you had all of me, and it still wasn't enough." I recounted the compromises I had made, my decision to forego medical school, my acceptance of children when I didn't want them. I did these things for our relationship, but clearly, I misjudged her commitment and love. If I could go back, I'd advise my younger self to walk away. She asked again what she could do to fix things. I told her I'd never compromise for her again, and that we couldn't have a healthy relationship. I said I'd never love her again, and would only view her as a means to satisfy physical needs. Otherwise, she wouldn't factor into my life or thoughts. Just a week ago, she was the first person I thought of each morning, and the last person before sleep. Now, it's too painful to even think about her. I've decided to walk away and leave this behind. I can't keep replaying these painful memories. I'm grateful for the support from those who've shared their stories and offered advice. This process has been helpful, but it's still confusing and painful. I don't know if I'll ever be 100% sure about anything concerning her again. I have bi-weekly therapy appointments for the next month. The night before I moved out, STBXW and I had sex one last time. I made it clear that this meant nothing and wouldn't alter my decision regarding reconciliation. She said she understood, but her persistent attempts to communicate make me doubt her sincerity. She was served the divorce papers in the first week of October. The subsequent love bombing and attempts to draw me back have been intense, almost to the point of being unnerving. The earliest hearing might be in January. If she keeps her word, it will be a straightforward process. If she decides to contest, so be it. She found a new job about a week after being fired, which just goes to show that networking often trumps merit. On a positive note, I'm doing well. I've come to terms with her shortcomings as a person and a partner. I've accepted what happened and am focusing on moving forward. Over the past 3 weeks, I had 2 surprising encounters. First, my stepdaughters visited me. I made it clear that if their mother had orchestrated their visit, they were welcome to leave. My oldest stepdaughter, however, insisted on staying. It turns out that they had a long conversation with their mother about the affair, which led to them reassessing our relationship. My oldest stepdaughter, who had always harbored resentment towards me, apologized for her misconceptions. She admitted that her previous views of me were misguided, influenced by the chaos and dishonesty surrounding our family. When I was first introduced to them, STBXW and I had been dating for about 4 months, during which there was some overlap with her on-again, off-again relationship. Her first husband had cheated on her, leading to a brief reconciliation before she engaged in a revenge affair with another on-again, off-again partner. My stepdaughters had mistakenly thought I was that person. Their father, who had been critical of their mother's infidelity, had never disclosed his own. So my stepdaughter's apology was a significant, if unsettling, development. The second surprise came from a longtime coworker. She works in a different department but heard about my divorce through the hospital grapevine. I'd been wearing my wedding ring on a chain, and when she insisted on taking me out for a drink, I told her I wasn't interested in any relationship, but appreciated the gesture. She just smiled and squeezed my hand, saying she wasn't looking for anything long-term. She just wanted to have some fun and try me on. She's been spending the night a couple of times a week, which has been surprisingly enjoyable. She even helped me pack my carry-on and drove me to and from the airport for my Seattle interview. The interview went exceptionally well, and I've received a call from a travel agency with several exciting opportunities. I'm considering the travel gig and crashing at my parents' place between contracts. The idea of being liberated and not responsible for anyone else is both exhilarating and a bit daunting. My lawyer confirmed that there will be no alimony or spousal support due to the no-fault divorce laws in our state. However, since I have proof of infidelity, it might affect the division of assets, possibly giving me up to 70% of the total. The house will be sold, and based on the realtor's comps, I'm expecting a substantial sum from the sale. While it doesn't make up for the loss of 17 years, I'm contemplating a 3-month tour of Europe. I'm starting to feel again, and it's been more positive than I expected. I'm not in the best place, but I'm certainly in a better spot than I could be.